Today we're talking to Altrincham manager Phil Parkinson on the back of an impressive 4-1 victory over Stoke City in the National League Cup. Phil, a good night.
Yeah, really good test for us. All the under-21 fixtures have been really lively. They've been really well drilled, organised. The presses have been very good. They're playing out superbly well, as you'd expect teams of that ilk to do. So for us, it's been great to play against, to pit our wits against, to get minutes into players' legs, and Stoke were no different in midweek.
And the National League Cup has had quite a lot of criticism, but I think from our perspective it's working out quite well. The games have come at good times for us in terms of giving players the opportunity to get minutes in, which we needed, and we wouldn't have had that opportunity otherwise for some players. And there's a number of other benefits as well, not least the £8,000 in prize money.
Yeah, you've just ticked off all the benefits. You've stolen my thunder there, Brian. But all the stuff that you've said there, we've certainly used to our advantage. There is the downside, which is injuries. We've picked up a few niggles from the Stoke game, which isn't fantastic. Hopefully everybody's who's got them niggles will be back tomorrow. That's the biggest downside for all managers in this division, but the upsides are everything that you've just said.
And of course, last Tuesday night, fantastic occasion at Altrincham Football Club, league leaders York City in town, and one of the best first half displays. We can talk about Filed as well, that was fantastic, but one of the top-notch first half displays.
Yeah, I think when you play that well in a half, people will say that's the best they've seen us play. I think we've had a number of occasions where we played to them levels, but when you play against York and the top of the league, it's even more special. So yeah, really pleased for the players, because I feel our home record's very good, and York coming to town with the team that they did, on the form that they were on, was always going to be a tough test. They come with a very attacking formation. I think they only had one midfielder in there, so they obviously come to avenge the previous season. Very gung-ho approach, but we took full advantage of that with the way the players stuck to the game plan. And they executed brilliantly on the night, particularly the first half. And then the second half, there was no instruction to take the foot off the gas. I think they just were comfortable at 3-0, and they just kept him at arm's distance. That was sort of a player decision on the pitch. We did question it in analysis why we sat back a little bit more, but we give them that autonomy on the pitch to make them decisions. And maybe there's an element of the 3-0. They wanted to save the legs a little bit. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen us go on and score more goals, because I felt there was more goals there for us. But listen, the lads make them decisions on the pitch, and they kept a clean sheet and kept York to very little in the second half.
And I thought we defended really well in that second period. And if York had have got one, then there's every chance they might have got a second, and then who knows where you go from there. So keeping the clean sheet was absolutely paramount. True,
and momentum's everything in games, and you do run that risk when you sit off a team. I know everyone would think, well, how do you galvanise yourself to go again? But they were 3-0, they're comfortable. And football's a crazy game, isn't it? You're right. If they get one, can they get two, and so on and so on. But the lads obviously back their judgment, and as I said, that word execution, they executed on the day brilliantly.
So it's the Isuzu FA Trophy on Saturday. We're coming into it at the third round stage, and it's a humdinger of a draw.
Yeah, for Macclesfield, I'm sure will be a real big game for them. Years ago, I think this would have been game of the week if it was in the National League, because everybody would want to watch it. I'm sure there'll be a lot of attention around the game. We're the team in the National League now. Macclesfield are striving to get back there. So it should make for a tasty encounter just through the point of historical rivalry. I've been trying to remind my players of that, and I think some of the younger fans probably don't realise where that rivalry stems from. So I'm hoping it will mean as much to our fans and the players as much as it means to Macclesfield, but I'm sure when they get on the pitch they will realise that, because as I've gone on record as saying, it'll be like Macclesfield's World Cup to beat us. We've got everything to lose. They've got everything to gain. If we win, that's what's supposed to happen. If they win, it's going to be the best day that they've had for a long, long time. So we're very aware of that. But all we can do is control what we can control, play our football, make sure we're aware of their threats, which they do pose a big threat. That's why they're going through the divisions fairly quickly and they're getting the results that they are, because they've probably got a National League North squad. And so they're used to winning as well, and we've got to be aware of that. They're used to winning every week, and we've been that team in the MPL that shouldn't have been in the MPL and went through the divisions very quickly. So when you're used to winning, you can create cup upsets, and everyone will be looking at this as a big banana skin. Even some people close to the club, I'm sure, have got a little hope that we get undone on the day, because that's what people like to see, don't they? They like to see cup upsets, but we've just got to make sure we do everything right so that doesn't happen.
And in some ways, they've copied what we did back in 2017, or what you did in terms of when you set up your first team as the new manager of Altrincham Football Club in the Northern Premier League. You recruited players who you knew would excel in that league and also the one above. Yeah,
and I think I've never deviated away from the fact that we were big hitters in that division, and the moment that we stepped through the door, I said that our main focus was promotion, and not many people would say that when they go into a new football club that's had double relegations. But we knew with the budget that we had, the players at our disposal, the size of this club, that we'd have to get a lot of things wrong not to get it right. Unfortunately, all the decisions that we made paid off, and we are where we are now because of them decisions. And we had a squad of players that stuck with us for 5 seasons with very few changes. And you can kind of see, I know Macclesfield have turned around a lot of players, to be fair, over the last couple of seasons, but they've got a few there who will probably stay with them in the league above, and be successful in that division, because that's the type of player they've recruited. They've paid for players. They've recruited players of similar sort of skill sets that we like. They play a similar system to what we like. So they're quite an expansive team. Robbie's obviously a good coach and a very good manager. You can see they're a well-motivated team, well-drilled team. But so are we, and we're the National League team, and we're going to really have to show our quality on the day to get the result.
In terms of the FA Trophy, both clubs have suffered semi-final heartbreak in the last 2 seasons, and Macclesfield lost at Gateshead, and that was a fair result on the day. We suffered extreme heartbreak with the last-second equaliser for FC Halifax Town, and that should act as motivation for us on Saturday.
Absolutely. I mean, I said to the players, it's a short career, football, and you only get so many opportunities to get to Wembley. Some of them it might be 10, 15. So 10, 15 seasons to get to Wembley. And we don't want to let this one slip through our fingers. So as much as it's a big game from a historical point of view, it's a game where we've got Macclesfield Football Club in our way. And we need to go past them in order to achieve our goal, which is to get to Wembley. So we really want to do that for ourselves as well as our fans and this football club that's steeped in cup tradition. I've said many times that we have underachieved in the FA Cup. I think once we've got to the second round, we've had some really difficult ties, mine as well. I don't think the draws have been particularly kind to us over the years. We've always had tricky ties, a bit like this one. It's not like a team you're expected to win unequivocally. It's a banana skin. We've had a couple of them, and teams in our division who are of equal strength to us. So to get to Wembley, you've got to beat the best teams, and from the divisions below, Mac is certainly the best up-and-coming team that we'll face, and we'll have to be at our very best to overcome them.
What type of game are you expecting on Saturday?
I think, knowing the way Robbie sets up his teams, I think they'll want to come and really upset us. I think they'll be fairly attacking, but I think he will respect us as well. When I look at how they've set up against Tamworth and Curzon, the different shapes that they've played, We're very aware of what they do, and they will be of us as well. So when you talk about max resources, there's not many teams, if any, in the Northern Premier League that you can view their games on Y-Scout. So that just shows the investment that they're putting in their club, that they've got the same software and the same access to data analysis and video analysis as ourselves. So they will have studied all of our games, all of our players, just as we have of them.
And in terms of our season, our home form has been really good.
Yeah, and I think that's something we've got to take a lot of confidence from. All teams want to have a really strong home record, and we do at the moment. So yeah, Mac will come with nothing to lose, because nobody will be expecting them to absolutely beat us. But I'm sure there'll be a feeling around a lot of people where they hope they do. We've got to use that as fuel to motivate ourselves, to make sure we're on our front foot and at the top of our game, to ensure that upset doesn't happen.
And in previous years, this round of the trophy's always played middle of December-ish. We've rotated like lots of clubs have, whether we were in the National League North or the National League, and that's not going to be an option really on Saturday.
No, and we don't with the personnel. We've got as I said, we've got a few knocks and niggles. So we're gonna have to look to address that over the next couple of weeks. In terms of if we can't get the players back, we're gonna have to bring some in, I think. But we're doing everything we can. So we've got what we've got going into the weekend, and it's been like the National League Cups. As much as we've rotated, they've been first team players. I know we've had the odd academy player like Louis Fallon playing, but in general it's been the rotation of first team players who've needed minutes, and hopefully that will serve as well going into this game. Because if we do have to use different personnel, then we will be fit and ready to go.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Louis Fallon, because he's had quite a season, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's been brilliant for Louis. He's a player we think a lot of, a bit like Owen German, Joe Bailey, some of the other lads we've had in the past, Amar Hussein, who's doing well out in Germany now, funnily enough. I've been tracking him. Ryan Morton, those types of players, Ryan Ford. We've had a number of players come through. We've really tried to help project their pathway to us or onto paid football, because success at Altrincham for an academy player doesn't always necessarily mean playing for our first team. So getting out on a loan, which Louis got very early now with Whitton, being exposed to adult football at a competitive level rather than just playing in our reserves where we're blooding them into adult football, showing that they can get closer to a National League type player, a future Altrincham player, is really important to us. And as I just explained there, some of the other players who've left us, like Tom Jones at Newcastle Town, doing really well. We monitor them and keep our eye on them, because we do truly believe that if they can keep progressing and moving up the pyramid, that their affinity with the football club will bring them back here one day. And there'll be nothing more pleasing for me than to field one of them ex-players who've come through our academy, been in for a couple of seasons as a professional with us. And Louis Fallon's no different to that. So as you said, the season he's having is probably steps ahead of even an Owen German. When he was in the academy, we didn't get him to a Whitton Albion level. So it just shows how advanced we're getting with some of these players now, and the great work that people like Ross Spate are doing in terms of bridging that gap and using the pathway really well from first team to academy. Paul Fay, Sarah, Morgan, Rory, Danny Jarrett with the reserves. There's so much effort and so much work that goes into progressing the young players. It's something that should be really promoted, and people should understand how much effort goes into it, because they don't just go to the academy and pop up with the first team. There's a big process that we put in place, and it's not perfect. We don't live in the perfect world. They don't have the best training facilities. With the academy, with the reserves, they don't have the best times. Sometimes it's 9 till 10. And an evening that Danny gets to work with them after they've had an academy game on a Wednesday, and he has them in on a Thursday. So we have to monitor the distances. There's a lot of communication, a lot of thought that goes into getting a Louis Fallon onto that pitch with us and seeing the performance that he churned out against Stoke City the other day, which I'm sure everyone will agree was of a really high level.
You mentioned Amar Hussein there, who's He's an interesting character, did really well, came through as an academy graduate, was doing very, very well at Altrincham Football Club, but then suffered a very serious ACL injury. And it's great to see him out in Germany. He scored a really good goal a couple of weeks ago. And probably without the setback of that major injury, probably still be at the club.
100%. I mean, Amar was one that we were earmarking to be a potential replacement for Chris. Similar position, similar type of player, different obviously, but a goal scorer, a goal creator, great presser of the ball, good family. So everything that you would want in a player Amar had, it was just so unfortunate with his injury, and then even more unfortunate for him, but good for us how successful we were last season, and how well players in his position were playing. And that's the other tough thing for the lads coming through. They've got to be of an exceptional level, because you look at the players in our first team, they're not old men, they're coming into the prime, some of them are not even there yet. So to get past those players who have been where they've been and done more is really difficult for them.
You mentioned about the number of niggles and injuries at the moment. One thing that's been a real positive of the season, particularly with 7 players on the substitutes bench in the National League this season, is I can't think of one game where we haven't been able to field a strong bench.
And it's crucial. Without your bench, you can't impact games, so you're as strong as your bench, as the saying goes. And we're desperately thin on there for certain options in certain positions, but for the majority of the season, I think we've had a really rich bench, a bench that can certainly change a game, and we've seen that. When you look at the Solihull game as a prime example, the way the lads coming from the bench turned that game on its head, and we probably weren't able to do that at times last season. We were heavily reliant on the probably starting 11, 12, 13 maybe. Now I'd like to think we've got 20 lads who are all capable of making big impacts, or in whatever position that they play in.
And finally, just looking forward to Saturday's game against Macclesfield. Whether it's Manchester United against Manchester City, Liverpool versus Everton, Altrincham and Macclesfield, where there's a huge rivalry, what difference does that make to you as a manager of a team of players who maybe know about that rivalry but don't feel it like the fans do? Because clearly the view of the fans going into Saturday's game on both sides will be different to the view of the two sets of players.
Yeah, do you know what? That's a great question, because it's something I've been trying to work out in my head before I even came in on Monday. So I sent a message out to all the staff, because you presume all the staff are aware of the rivalry, and even though I bring it up every pre-season, kind of as a joke really, in terms of who Altringham's oldest rivals, it was Northwich Vicks, and obviously Macclesfield. They're the ones that seem to pop up when you speak to the fans. I think there's even a flag about not liking Mac for a very long time. Let's just word it like that. So I won't use the exact wording, but there's a rivalry there that we need to be aware of. And since we've been here, we've been involved in a lot of big games, but I don't think we've been involved in a game where it's been so close to the bone for our fans, not so much our players. Everyone wants the players to feel how the fans do, and I've got to make them try and understand that, and I'm sure they will when they walk out on the pitch on Saturday, from the Mac point of view and from our fans' point of view. So we know Mac fans are turning up in their numbers. They've sold out that away end, and I'm sure we will as well. So our players certainly need to feel the atmosphere from our supporters. It can't be where it's like Mac's home game. So our supporters have got to show the fight that they're going to expect to see from our players. Because if they don't, they will allow Mac to outsing them, outshout them. Even if we go a goal down, we still need that. And I'm sure Mac will get it from their fans. So that's the kind of intensity that the players have got to realise that they're walking into. And us as staff are very aware that, because we've not played Mac, we played him in a friendly, and that sort of opened my eyes to the sort of rivalry between the two teams, how much our fans were displeased that we had a friendly with them. So I didn't realise it would have been a negative. It was a great game for us because it was a very competitive game, but from a fan's point of view, there just seemed to be nonsensical why we would do that, and I didn't understand why until I spoke to a few. And then you have a competitive game where we have to play them. So to play in a game like this, what you can't be is complacent. And that's the biggest fear that any manager would have when you're setting up a team going into a local derby, let's say, against a team that are more than capable of beating any team in our division on their day. Let's make no bones of that. I don't think they would compete every single week in our division and survive, but I think that they can beat any team in our division on their day, as we could have when we were in the MPL. So we've got to be very in tune with that they're going to play probably a higher level than they would normally play, a higher intensity that they would normally play. The adrenaline's going to be running through their bodies a lot more than what our players would be. And it would be the same if we were playing a team from League One. We would have to find them levels within ourselves to just compete and then not embarrass ourselves. So they're going to do all them things, but they've got quality as well. They've got quality that is proven at the National League North level, definitely, some in the National League, and we have to respect that. And then there's obviously the rivalry between the two teams, so pride's at stake as well. So all these things come into a melting pot of decision making that you have to do as a manager, and I'm sure Robbie will be feeling exactly the same thing, but his big get out will be he's got nothing to lose. So we've got to make sure that we're playing our way. We've got to make sure we're nice, calm and composed, but not overly calm where we become complacent. We've got to realise it's going to be a really intense atmosphere where there's a lot at stake. But I will say this now, let's make no bones about it. As much as we want to get to Wembley, our biggest achievement will be to get out of this league. So as much as it will mean everything to us to go through, if it doesn't go our way, which unfortunately can happen in the cup, we will have bigger fish to fry in the league. But believe you me, we are going to win this game, and we're going to try and get our spot in history that we want to make for ourselves, because this football club have got players who have done that in the past, managers who have done it in the past. We're desperate to tick that box. We've had the promotions, we've had a stability, we've turned it round from part-time to full-time. We'd love to get to Wembley. We want to get to the Football League. So this game is big for a number of reasons, but it won't define us. We certainly don't want to let our fans down, but it won't be the be-all and end-all for us.